It's me, thinking out loud. Yesterday, I was sitting in my study, listening to a recorded panel discussion on artificial intelligence and widespread job displacement. And as the voices bounced back and forth, talking about retraining programs and shift shares, I felt this heavy, familiar knot forming in my chest. I realized pretty quickly that I can't look at this as one big, tidy problem. If I'm going to be honest about what's happening, I have to break this reflection down into a few distinct parts. And I think we need to start right here with this first part, with the raw mechanics of inequity. My very first reaction to the panic on that recording was skepticism. It wasn't dramatic, it was just quiet, intellectual armor. It's the same defense mechanism so many of us in technology leadership have spent decades cultivating. When a new wave crashes in, our automatic instinct is to lean back, fold our arms, and say, "We've seen this before." It feels so familiar, doesn't it? It's comforting to treat history like a flat circle, to assume that every disruption follows the exact same predictable curve. And whenever this conversation comes up, the same historical anchor always presents itself. For me, it's the elevator operators. I don't know why that specific example is the one that always bubbles up, but it is. We tell ourselves the story of the early 20th century, when riding in an elevator required a skilled technician to manually align the cab with the floor using a heavy lever. Then, automated push button elevators arrived. The operators protested, the public resisted out of sheer fear of stepping into a driverless cage. But eventually, the operators disappeared. And yet, the economy didn't collapse. Those workers found other roles, other industries grew to absorb them, and we all kept moving forward. It is incredibly tempting to wrap ourselves in that story. It acts as a safety blanket, a way to assure ourselves that the pain of the present is just a temporary friction before the next equilibrium. But as I sat there listening to the panel, something about that comparison started to feel off. I couldn't quite shake the discomfort when you actually look at those past transitions. The real truth isn't that they were painless. The truth is that what made them survivable was the buffer of time. The transition from manual elevators to fully automatic ones didn't happen overnight. It took decades. Decades for buildings to retrofit their shafts, decades for public trust to shift, decades for the older generation of workers to naturally retire while the younger generation chose different career paths. That lag, that precious friction of physical infrastructure and human habit was the very thing that gave us room to breathe, to adjust, and to figure out what came next. But that brings me to the question that has been nagging me. What happens if that buffer of time no longer exists? In this current shift, we aren't waiting for physical gears to be forged or copper cables to be laid across cities. The infrastructure of cognitive automation is already there, humming inside the servers we already use, delivered instantly through a browser tab. The transition is practically frictionless. And that frictionlessness is exactly what's disturbing. Part of my mind, the analytical, seasoned side that has navigated multiple tech cycles, is still trying to argue the old case. It tells me, Candace, you're overreacting. This is just another cycle. New jobs will emerge. They always do. But another part of me, the part that relies on raw intuition and hard earned observation of organizational behavior, is hesitating. It's whispering that the speed of this change is fundamentally different. If a cognitive task can be automated globally in a matter of weeks, how does a human worker find the time to retrain? Where is the buffer of months or years to pivot when the ground beneath your feet isn't just shifting, but entirely dissolving? I'm sitting with this tension, and honestly, I don't have a clean way to resolve it. I want to trust the comfort of history. I want to believe that we've seen this before and that we will find our balance again. But I'm looking at the sheer velocity of what's unfolding, and I'm not sure the old rules apply. I'm not sure the time we need to adapt is actually there. Yeah, I'm still thinking out loud.